I think it's very important to be able to give people sense of growth and achievement and lead them to this, and creating workplaces where everybody can learn and develop. And I think a good leader is the one who is able to also not push the people, but to be able to grow together with people and to be humble enough to allow himself to learn from the people that he works with and to learn from their experiences. I definitely believe in leadership that allows for failure. I am certain that this kind of leadership requires a lot of courage, and it's a very brave act to give up control and to trust people. But I think it can bring enormous benefits to workplaces because at the end of the day, if you are working with somebody that you don't trust, and if you're working with some in an environment where you feel highly controlled, then I wonder whether you would be really willing to share your best ideas or whether you would be truly willing to contribute with your best talents and skills.
I don't fully agree with what was said. I think we are confusing management with leadership here. I think leadership has, across time, has had the same values, same principles, but in the context. We need to remember context. Leadership of military and army versus the manager of an army versus the leader of a political party versus the leader of a company versus the leader of a society or a family. Those contexts have to be defined, and a lot of those qualities have to come into play for every leader. A manager can choose to be top-down. A manager can choose to be collaborative, but leadership cannot make that choice. Leadership has only one choice, and that is to listen, learn, and encourage failure and all those good qualities. So I think we're confusing leadership. I don't think just because technology has come in, leadership's basic tenets have changed. They have not changed.
Harvard Business Review did an amazing article around the number one reasons or the top reasons for failures of startups. And the number one reason, the most common reason for a failure of a startup was not the product, was not the timing, but rather it was the team issues. And I think as someone in private equity, as someone who works with young entrepreneurs all the time, as a young entrepreneur, I think we all recognize that the team issues oftentimes are the most complex, the most challenging, and yet when do we focus on those team issues within the context of leadership education or entrepreneurship education? So both Educate and Watson University, we actually encourage teams to apply together, and we bring those teams into our program, create a safe environment, a safe space for them to work through those relational challenges. And so technology, by democratizing information, has allowed us to evolve education to focus on these things like building relationships through empathy, listening with empathy to your customers, to your clients, creativity, problem solving, etc. So it's really changed the fundamental nature of what the outcomes of education can be.
Good leadership is about creating trust, and I think once a leader is able to establish this trust and loosen the control, then thanks to the modern technology, there are a lot of new opportunities opening. So first of all, it's working in non-traditional settings and non-traditional times, working with global teams. But also, if you work with the savvy technology people, with young people who basically have the electronic devices as extensions of their hands, and Google searches and Wikipedias as extensions of their brains, then if you're able to forget about the procedures and hierarchies, then the results of what you can achieve are endless, because technology basically removes the borders to what we can achieve.
Leadership is generally within everybody. It's a matter of realizing what you are going to be a leader at, what you're going to lead, and when you're going to lead it, and how effectively you can lead it, or do you need to acquire more skills to be a better person. So there's a realization moment which is driven by a self-realization process, self-realization document almost, which you can say, I can today look at myself and I can tell myself that I'm good at this, not so good at this, emerging, and then I can improve upon those skills to be a better leader. That's step number one. A non-self-realized person cannot be a good leader. That's once you've achieved that step, then after that lies the opportunity to say, what can I learn from external factors, whether mentorship or taking classes or being influenced by the people whom I call my heroes, my mentors, and role models, etc. in life. If that's not an intrinsic choice I can make because that's just not my personality, then events in life will force that choice upon me perhaps. And those events generally can be a culmination of my own inaction or through the action of others, such as saying, you better go and take this course. And over time, elements of leadership can be acquired, but the basic principles of leadership, and you can improve them for sure. At the same time, you cannot be in a situation where you can be a great leader unless self-realization leads you to a point where then you can be a better person who listens, empathizes, and also is able to understand the value of failure and following.
Volunteering type opportunities and service opportunities are a great way, a great doorway maybe to becoming a leader or learning more about leadership. That was how my own journey started to Uganda, was through a volunteering opportunity with Amnesty International, which evolved into something different after they rejected my application, but that's another story. It was still the doorway nonetheless. And our goal is to provide that doorway for so many of the students that we work with, if not all the students. And I think, you know, after doing this work in Uganda and then also in the US, one of the things that we found is that 80% of the results, 80% of the growth as leaders that our students make comes from really two pretty simple things. And I think this is the crux of the conversation here, is what are the best practices in learning to lead? What are the best practices in this type of education to develop young leaders and young innovators? And the first I'd say is these two simple things. It's just the time, the space in their day, and then the encouragement. And that magical combination of having intentional time in a young person's day plus the encouragement to lead, I would say, we don't have evidence behind this, but somehow leads to approximately 80% of the results that we see. Right now, how the education system is set up is that we fill up our days with classes, then homework, structure, and then, in my own case, any of the leadership work I was doing happened either during summer vacation or from about the hours of midnight till 2 a.m. during the school year. And yet when I look back on what I've learned the most from, without a doubt, it was the times when I was working on Educate, on the projects I was developing from midnight till 2 a.m. or during the summers. And I learned the most from those times. The most impact came from then. So we bring into the school day intentional time plus the encouragement for students to develop these ideas. We can learn so much through relationships, and it's our hypothesis that all the real change that happens in our students' lives comes from a relationship. The seed is a relationship, and so within everything we're doing, relationships are where we start. It's the pillar of the model.
So when I was Undersecretary of the Navy with this large organization with many four-star admirals, I did a program I called 30-something, in which I took 30 young officers and asked them to spend a month reinventing the Navy and the Marine Corps, and we owned them both. And then I thought their answer had value. I would take them back to the four-star admirals in the Pentagon and let them tell their picture of what they wanted. And I wanted to carry a message from youth to power about what they expect in the future. And the answer they brought up was very interesting, which was, we need to see the culture change, we need to see decisions made faster, and we need to be listened to, or we're out of here. So you can have youth help leaders change, but it takes some work.
We tell them, before you graduate, you must know that your success as a leader is what happens when you're not around. So we need you to leave a legacy behind. Start something that will continue long after you're gone. The set that's graduating this year have come up with a brilliant idea, and we give them the responsibility of telling us what their legacy is going to be, which they should know that after they leave, when they are individuals, they need to always leave a legacy if they are to be truly effective leaders. It's not about things they do for themselves, but things they do for others, how effective they are, how significant they are. And this set came up with a brilliant one, which was to take the staff who are illiterate on the compound, the cleaners, the janitors who can't read, and try and help them with literacy. So that's the legacy for this set. So I just had to share that with you.